Hey folks, welcome back. It's good to have you here. My guest today is Lizzie Loch, who I am incredibly excited to get to introduce you to. Lizzie's a dear friend. She is an abstract artist and intuitive advisor who I've had the pleasure of knowing for the better part of a year. We met through a mutual friend of ours, Carissa, who had both of us on her podcast, Everyday Mystic. I invite you to go and check out those episodes. And yeah, Lizzie, I just want to welcome you, and I'll share a little bit more about how we know each other and the ways we've gotten to play so far. But first, let me just say welcome and how good it is to have you here.
Thanks, Forrest. It's great to be here as well and to be in this conversation and everything's that's gonna come through today. So thank you for having me.
When you say everything that's going to come through today, it helps me connect to the way that you and I hang out, which for me seems to be like let's get together and just see what happens and trust the flow, trust the way life unfolds, and actually being available for in the moment manifestation. What is wanting to come through? How is healing and awakening and flow and inspiration and liberation wanting to come online more fully in this moment? So I want to name that to our listeners from a meta perspective, from a meta process perspective of this is how we tend to hang out. And you might notice that's that sometimes the way of relating is a little bit different. It could be even seemingly herky jerky as we let flow find us. So yeah, I just want to name that. And how's that for you to hear, Lizzie?
Yeah, I love hearing that, and it's something I deeply appreciate about you, Forrest, and our co-created space is it's often we go in with no intention except for the intention of the present moment informing us of what wants to open, what wants to come forward. And in that, in the experience of that with you and in life, exactly what is meant to open, be talked about, discovered, played with gets to occur when that spaciousness is there. And it's an act of listening and being present and surrendering. And I love playing in that way with you.
I feel like ooey gooey warmth hearing that. And I feel like this big opening that I want to dive into. And before I do that, I just want to set a little bit more context, which is sharing that a couple of things that we got to do this summer. We were in Europe together, first in Lisbon, Portugal, then in Amsterdam, and some of other parts of the Netherlands, and then in Berlin. And I specifically want to double click on our time in the Netherlands because we went to a 3 day well-being economy gathering with Sarah McCrum and six others. There were a total of nine of us for these 3 days. And then immediately the next day, we went into the beginning of an 8 day Luminous Lab, which I convened and facilitated in Amsterdam that you were a part of. So there was 11 days straight of a really deep dive in consciousness and an embodied experience of what it's like to be a future human. So I want to contextualize this as some of the depth and some of the territory we've gotten to hang out and explore in. And I want to share one more thing, which is a moment that's come to mind for me in these last minutes as I was connecting with evoking this podcast. And as you know, and our listeners know, this is a field first podcast, meaning we actually foreground the field of consciousness and the vibrational tone that we're speaking from and in relationship from as we are in relationship and in exploration here. And I just wanted to name and inviting all of our listeners, connecting with you in this moment and inviting you to relax into and allow yourself to be resourced and even recreated by this field that we're recording this podcast from. I just wanted to share in service of the field here this memory of being with you, Lizzie, in Lisbon. And I was in a little bit of a futz about something, like I was kind of in a contraction and a little bit fussy. And I remember there was a moment where you and I looked at each other, and I'm not sure what words were said, but eventually you started communicating to me, like, yeah, Forrest, like, we're from the same place, we're from the same vibration, and we're here to do the same thing in this world. And then we just went into this hysterical laughter for almost like 30 minutes or something, just hysterically laughing. And I felt so connected to you in that moment. I felt so much relief, and I feel like I imagine it's speaking to a field we might hang out in here together, which has so much depth and sincerity and also quite a bit of humor. And yeah, I feel my heart and my depths sharing this, and I just want to invite our listeners into this ground that we get to hang out in a funny and sincere way.
Funny and sincere. Yeah, thank you for sharing that moment. I can connect to it as you share it and remember the place that I connect to when I spoke that is this place of the infinite that in a way we're all connected to, but it's this specific flavor that has this like cosmic laugh underneath it all. That just knows so deeply. It's like a belly laugh that wants to explore galaxies. It's
Yeah.
like,
It's like I often say the Big Bang is still banging, right? And it's like
yeah.
that experience is feels like laughter. Sometimes it feels like an orgasm and sometimes it feels like laughter, but there is this component to it of a cosmic joke. It's just one big hilarious thing happening.
Yeah. It's like somewhere between a deep laugh, like a deep cry, a deep sigh, and like all of it just like boom, 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 boom. And sometimes you're like inside the boom and you're like, whoa. And other times you like become one with the sound of the boom and you're like precise and like laser focused on maybe a particular mission or project. And other times it's just play.
Yeah. And so my experience of you is you walk around in the world from this place. I mean, that's how I've come to know you and gotten to be in relationship with you. And not only that, you work from here, you advise people from here, and you create art from here. So I want to know more about what it's like to work and to create art from a cosmic joke.
Yeah. Um, to work and create art from the cosmic joke. Um, well, to be honest, is I don't know another place to create from. I really, really don't. Like it's just to me at this point in time in life and whatever journeys and like challenges and like uh, you know slaps across the face that creation has I've experienced, it's somehow brought me deeper and deeper to this place where I know that when I'm creating from this space, whatever is emerging is gonna ring true to myself or to others, and whatever is created from that space is going to hold some sort of resonance or pocket of information, energy, connection that some other being on the planet needs to receive, or I wouldn't be feeling it. And so for me, I prioritize this space. And if I feel myself disconnected or having the experience of being disconnected from it, because I don't think we can ever actually be disconnected from it, but if I feel myself in the experience of being disconnected from it, it's always an invitation to come back in and see what wants to emerge from there. And that is how I create, say, art, for example, is like I connect in deep, deep, deep to this almost like primordial essence of creation. And then when the energy clicks, it all comes through. And it's often beyond thought. It's often just knowing that leads.
Yeah, and so in the well-being economy gathering, we were speaking about the ground of well-being, which for me is this primordial ground where we can have the what I oftentimes call well, not just me, I didn't make this up, but what I refer to as doing from non-doing, right? Which is sinking so deep into the ground of well-being, so deep into the primordial ground that creation itself is acting as us. And there's an experience of being a part of the doing. It's not passive, but there's not really a sense that I am doing it. It's that it's being done and I'm a part of I'm a part of and one with that which is happening.
Mhm. Yeah, and we get the up close laser vision of our current reality of creation as creation through us, kind of like dancing with the current moment that is unfolding and like getting to be. It blows my mind that in all of infinite creation we get these experiences that are so hyper focused. It's like that's a miracle to me.
Can you say more about that?
It's like the simplicity of a finite moment, right? Like this pillow like on a couch is like so finite in all of the infinite that it blows my mind to like get to experience something that is perceived as finite
Mm.
because everything in exists like we live in such a vastness, so to zoom in on a finite moment, a finite real like a relationship, a connection with another human, a connection with a tree, a plant, like any of that feels like such a gift of this human experience, and it's just like awe everywhere.
Mm.
And I feel like the more I've gone out far into the galaxies, the more I deeply appreciate like a mug. like like this mug holds a substance that we're engaging with and having this experience with, and like we've had to really focus and concentrate enough energy to create something so finite and perceive it in a slowed down version.
It's still vibrating of the same source that it's birthed from and returns back to. It's just vibrating slower.
Yeah, it's so cool.
One thing I'm curious about is, I mean, my judgment is you're pretty stable in relating with life from here, which and I would judge myself the same way. And at the same time, I know for me, I went through a heck of a process where I was really not stable for a while. And I wonder if you also had that, and I wonder if you could speak to kind of the journey of um, before your intuitive. I mean, you have a lot of capacities in my judgment. I mean, you really have opened quite a lot. And so I'm wondering about in three phases, like before that opening, during the chaos of it, and now getting more stable and integrated on the other side of it. I'm just curious if you could speak a little bit to that arc.
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. And I'm glad you bring that up. So I would say if we were to break it down in three phases, I'd say before the major opening, I existed more in a finite 3D, maybe like high achiever, focused, grounded energy. Like that was I was very focused on what I was doing. I was this very grounded, responsible, energy in the world. When it was, school, I was like the straight A student, just very precise with everything and followed the rules, was just kind of your good girl archetype, but had a lot of fun. And I existed in the realm of like what I knew that was. And when I opened, like I shot to the galaxy, like I shot so far into the infinite, and it was like the illusion of reality, everything, like the veil just broke and I touched infinity and I felt the vastness that we truly are, and I felt the truth of who I am. And to be honest, it was challenging. It was so challenging to come back into this 3D experience and to ground all that energy. I think that's where I struggled for probably several years. I was like, you go so far out and then you come in and you're like, how do I experience this finite experience, when I know I'm this infinite being, and when I actually now perceive more from the infinite macro perspective of everything. Like I could not see a situation and not connect it to the infinite web of creation. And so my challenge that I'm even continuing to refine within myself is to be doing both simultaneously, to be so present here and so grounded and so embodied in my human body while simultaneously always being aware of the infinite vast nature of who we are. And the period of when all that light, because the way I see it too is like all this light came into my body and so much had to shake out of my body to even be able to hold all that light, that it was like there was a year where I was experiencing all this kundalini energy and I was up every night for like 8 hours a night shaking, but I was also channeling aliens and like, you know, doing light language and understanding more of my healing gifts. And I had to find ground. I had to find the earth. I had to find my body again because I shot so far out. And I needed to. Like, there was so much richness in that. And like the pieces that I was able to grab going out, I can now use in my work. And I do actively use in my work. But I didn't have a formula, I didn't have a guidepost on how to anchor all of that. And so sometimes navigating just very simple human things was like hard. And I had to learn how to control my energy. Like I'd be like shaking kundalini energy and like wine bottles would pop open and car batteries would break and computers would shatter. And I was just like, what do I do with all of this? And then flash forward, if we go to the phase 3, I finally like learned how to stabilize the energy, center it, and I learned that it's important for me to be supporting other people. It's important for me to be channeling the energy, doing energy work, making art, giving. I learned how important it is for me to give from that energy, or I over circuit. If you were to use brainwave states, you'd say I run a ton of gamma brainwaves, which you do too, Forrest, and a lot of us do. And I've had my brain studied in that. And when you run that much energy, the way I've found stability, grounding, and flow is by creating more, giving more, and anchoring into my human body and like prioritizing physical exercise and nature and like very human grounded energies. I jump in the ocean 3 to 4 times a week swimming, and that like helps me immediately come into my body. And yeah, and so now it's stabilized. I've learned how to dial the energy and I've learned how to support others with the energy. And as I grow, it continues to anchor even more into my body consciousness, and my body consciousness continues to be able to hold more and more light the more I deepen.
Yeah, thank you. I feel really seen and connected to you in what you're sharing. It feels both deeply personal and also universal. And I see myself in your story. So I'm feeling grateful. I imagine some people listening see themselves in your story. So I'm having an appreciation of like a collective moment of just like, yeah, I know something about that in some way.
Yeah, the journey.
I like that you, for me, as you were speaking, there's many things that happened. One of them is it feels like a fourth stage got added in there, which was, if stage one is, let's call it consensus reality or everyday life, then two, you have this big awakening experience. And three, there's the purification process. And then four, some type of stabilization and integration. So I appreciate you naming that because I also had that. And I know it's common as the clear light that we are is coming into the body, everything that's not that light has to come out. And uh, I know people do things like go do ayahuasca or other kinds of plant medicines to do purges. I haven't done either of those. I've just had tons of purging, like lots of energetic throwing up, lots of coughing, lots of sweating. I mean, I've talked about detoxing, survival, fear-based, not enough consciousness, like having to literally sweat out an entire worldview that we've introjected as a part of being in consensus reality. Uh, so that's real. I just want to name, oftentimes, conventional reality would say when you're going through that experience that you're sick, but it's actually like, no, this is healing. This is a process of well-being and recovery from carrying around a bunch of lies in our body and in our psychosomatic, relational, social system that have got to come out when the truth of the light of the clarity that we are comes in. So, yeah, I appreciate you bringing that.
Yeah, exactly. I love that distinction of it's not sick because even when to this day, if I get knocked out with energy, I don't even in my mind go, I'm sick. I go, oh, I'm releasing. I'm
Right.
releasing energy. I'm purging energy. Like there's belief systems or density that wants to move out of the cellular body and it will happen. Like if your intention is there, I love how you said everyone's path is different. Some do ayahuasca and plant medicine and some it just happens. And I've found similar is when I'm ready for it, it will just happen. Even body cleanses. Like if I have an intention to like release parasites or something out of my body, it will just happen. Like I don't even have to take a substance. It just like all of a sudden my body's like time to detox. And I'm like, all right. Like,
Gotta be careful with that actually, because
you do.
one time I did that and I just kind of teed up a few of them, and then I was like 3 days later, I'm like, oh God, I gotta kind of it's like maybe we don't do all of this at once.
Gentleness.
Yeah, that's,
We get a whole lifetime.
yeah.
Which I think is also a learning of like, okay, like step by step, we don't have to be all the way there all at once.
Yeah, and another thing that I just loved in what you shared is that for me, I do experience a sickness in when I'm don't have containers to give, or when the energy is not coming through freely and pervasively, and it's like you were saying, being of service when you really stabilize and integrate. There's just this for me, and I'm hearing you say it. There's just this very deep orientation from how can I help? What can I do to support? And um, is there any way I can be of service in this moment?
Yeah.
And not having ways to do that, needing a container to do it and not having that, or needing a stage, for a lack of a better word to put it, or um, getting kind of stuck in the mind about who, what, where, how, blah, 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 instead of the energy just flowing through can be like psychotic and psychosis inducing in a way. So,
Totally. And I've been there too. And yeah, I find in those moments when I don't know to just start giving where the energy is showing up, into whom is showing up. Like just start giving. And for me, when I'm moving from that energy of like I'm purely giving, and that's what I'm here to do. Like I know what I'm here to do. I know what I'm here to give. Then naturally the containers continue to make themselves known. But it's easy to get in the head with like, is it this structure? Is it this business? Is it this program? Is it this? Is it that? And yes,
right,
and
right.
and it's the core of the energy running through all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that point where the kind of unbounded non-symbolic consciousness flowing through actually is manifesting into offers and pricing and packaging and marketing material. That's been a profound journey. I mean, first of all, a similar kind of process, right? I mean, so you and I both have a passion for the well-being economy, and I've been tracking. There's so much that we've taken on about how business has to be done from conventional consciousness. So there's a stage in the well-being economy of unlearning, of releasing, of letting go of a lot of these concepts and stories and beliefs and orientations and frameworks about how things have to be done. And then from the free-flowing, unbounded, non-symbolic consciousness, we start to emerge new perspectives and orientations and um, like literally dynamics and drivers in our consciousness and in our mind that support the flourishing of our business and our products and our gifts in the world. And that's been an incredibly rich journey for me. And um, that I just come to that point as I'm hearing you speak, this place where from the unbounded nature of who we are, we can actually concretize something that is like I talk about shimmering structures, right?
Mhm.
It's like there is a concretization and something we can really touch, and it's sourced from and infused with the unbounded nature that we're inviting people into with our offerings.
Yes, yes. And as I hear you say that, it makes me feel into the journey I've taken in that, like as an entrepreneur, as someone who is an artist and does mentorship and creates courses and like all of that. And one thing I've found in my journey of that is the importance of valuing myself and valuing the energy that comes through, and then simultaneously valuing others and what their energy is, and being in that energetic reciprocity with creation. Because I think so often, and I could speak for myself surely, and I see it with other healers and people I've worked with, it's like the thing we're connecting to is so pure that we almost, I could say, I almost in times don't even want to put a price tag on it, and don't even want to confine it to a number. And I think there's so many structures that can work, and I don't think you have to actually do that because it will ultimately always come back to you. But I do think what is important is that the self-worth and the value of honoring self and the energy that's coming through is recognized. And if that's a high number, if it's a zero number, it doesn't matter. But it's important to have that worth, to have that value, to recognize it within ourselves, and also recognize it within others who are offering these kind of services to the world that are truly coming from essence. And anyone who's offering something from their core essence, I'm like, how can we create a world where we are pouring resources into people who are offering things from their core essence? Because that's the biggest gift anyone could possibly give to our planet.
Yeah, I mean, there's the kind of, again, more old school consciousness of if I'm doing something of service, like money's not supposed to be a part of it or something. I don't exactly remember what the stories are, but something of like,
Mm-hmm.
no, this is charity or this is like for good, not for profit. And uh what we're speaking about here is actually the sacred economy, right? This is the well-being economy. This is honoring, there's an honoring that's happening. And my experience of how pricing works in these territories and from this place is there's a number that can emerge in connection that feels right. Like there's a knowing if
Mm-hmm.
people are willing to play. I can speak to experiences where this has not gone well, so I'm not naive here, everybody. I've had this not go well, so I can speak to that also. But I've also had times that have been profoundly sacred where, for example, facilitating a retreat and everybody at the end of everybody who was a part of the organizing team or the facilitators, anybody who came and brought value sat down and we all talked about everything that we did to contribute And then we all named things that we saw other people do to contribute and got
Mm.
all that collectively harvest value into shared awareness. And from there, there was instantaneous, I'm not going to call it consensus, it was co-validation of
Mm.
everybody going, Forrest gets 20%, Lizzie gets 23, whoever it is gets 41, and everybody just agrees. And it's like it's not from anyone personally. We're all just tapped into the same thing. That's just okay. This is what it is. And yeah.
I love that example so much. It makes my heart smile because I do feel that's like that is the well-being economy where everyone is giving and receiving the energetic that they're putting in, and it's not this hierarchical thing. It's just like this is the energetic resonance of this container, and this is the way that this particular permutation is working. And in full transparency, that is exactly how I price every single one of my offerings. Like my prices are all over the board, and I will say that out loud and proud because every single person and every single offering holds a particular energetic value and resonance that's necessary for that particular space. And it's gonna be different depending on what that space calls for, depending on what that is. And I have found in pricing when that is honored and felt, the flow of the experience is just harmonious and everyone really receives the fullest of what's there. And when I've compromised that, which I have, and like gone against my better knowing to give someone a deal or whatever it is, and it just doesn't feel as like dialed in. And there's often like weird residue or like things that kind of happen in the non-honoring, but when it's honored every single time in my experience, and I could say that wholeheartedly, it's like that.
Mhm. Mhm. I was chuckling and laughing as you were sharing because I heard you say like when I don't honor it and something in me goes, we pay the price.
Oh no, it's so true. It's so true. It's so true because that's how connected we are. Like we think it's all about us, but it's not. It's so not. And the whole world pays the price when any one of us doesn't honor ourselves fully.
Yeah. I would never claim there's only one way to do this, and I can share that my way has been deeply somatic. There's a I've had part of my process has been the nervous system attuning to truth and being in connection with people, being able to feel. I mean, when we're in the frequency and the vibe, right? When we're in the vibe and the frequency and things are happening, there's no thought even happening. There's constructs are emerging from awareness, like you could call it awareing something into being, but you're not really from the linguistic mind thinking things. You have access to all the constructs, but they're just manifesting as part of the dance.
Yeah.
And then there's when the vibe shifts, if there's a contraction or fear or some kind of not enoughness or shame or limitation or worldview that comes online, whatever it is. And I'm curious, for me, I say that's somatic because my whole system, I mean, everything in my being just goes, oh boy. Like, I mean, if we were just cruising along, surfing the field, all of a sudden we got, grabbed and ensnared in something. And yeah, I'm curious about your experience of this dynamic of the different vibrations, one being of truth, one being of more of a contraction, and if you have any dance moves or wisdom of what you do in connection with people when these happen.
Mm, mm. It's a really rich, rich question. Ooh, yeah. Wow. I think for myself, it all starts with me. It all starts within, in the sense of if I feel myself start to contract in any situation or any occurrence, then I start by noticing it and I start by witnessing it and I start by witnessing what aspect of awareness is contracting and becoming more self aware in those moments tends to help because then I can notice, okay, in this moment, I was like on my, let's call it soul track, let's call it truth track, and like boom 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 I was cruising along, and then all of a sudden I kind of like woo, I jumped onto this fear track and like this other train is suddenly driving, but it's like next to this train and it's like a smaller version, and maybe this train's white and this train's orange, and like I'm like oh, so I become aware that suddenly I'm on the orange train and we're going in the same direction, we're gonna get there together, but like it's a lot tighter. I barely fit into the seat. And I'm like, okay. So as soon as I become aware that I'm on the orange train, that in itself already starts to shift the field because I see it. And then as soon as I see it, I'm in awareness. And then as soon as I'm in awareness, I recognize I have choice and I can choose to shift the train that I'm on. And sometimes I jump onto the orange train when someone else is on their orange train, and ultimately that's my responsibility to get back onto my you know main track. And I find the greatest power is when I can stay on my main track regardless of the track that anyone else is on. And I think that's a continual, you could say this in a very concrete way of being human and moving from your heart and moving from your truth, and then that creating a visceral negative reaction in someone else.
Yeah.
And it could be easy in those moments to want to go to the orange train with them and be like, oh no, I'm going to sink down here with you and meet you here and kind of crumble in this fear. But one of my biggest learnings is recognizing when that's happening, coming back to the track within myself, checking within myself, where am I coming from? Am I coming from love? Am I coming from my soul? Am I coming from truth? And can I stand in what I'm saying? Can I stand in what I'm acting on from a pure place? And once I've done those like internal checks and I come back, then it's the practice of holding that vibration regardless of where anyone else is going. And to me, that's a form of self mastery because there's no need to control anything external in those moments. And rather, it's holding a field of awareness that then can more likely invite someone else to get on their main track if they choose.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you shared here. We have similar language in this as well. I often talk about the clear light trajectory, which
Mm-hmm.
sounds like I think the first color you used was white track, and then you talked,
Yeah.
and so I use that language. And I love what you shared around really the only thing we can control is whether or not we're coming from wholeness, whether or not we're coming from soul and from love. And we don't really have much power, if any power at all, over somebody else's come from. And just to apply this to the conversation that we're having about well-being economy and pricing and business dynamics, one newer awareness that I've had recently is for years, I've had people who are on the orange track meet me and say, "Hey, Forrest, I want to help. Like what you're doing in the world is amazing, and I want to help you with your business." And I've been like, "That's great," and I've started to engage them in some kind of dynamic. And I've realized over the repetitions of doing this, that ultimately unfolds into some type of mentorship dynamic or me holding space for people to come off the orange track onto their own clear light trajectory, which may mean we continue working together, it may mean they go off and do their own thing. Um, but there's a uh, basically any of the things I've ever done in collaboration, if I'm coming from the clear light trajectory, anything I've ever done with anybody who's, I don't know if this is true. Let me check. I don't know of anything that I've done with someone who's on the orange track that's actually manifested into a project.
Mm,
Most of the time, it's just turned into some kind of breakdown process and me loving them and, some type of healing happening. But the thing that we actually came together to manifest in the world doesn't occur.
mm,
And that's beautiful. And I'm also going, okay, this is a different kind of thing. This isn't co-creation. This is space holding and coaching and mentorship and
mm,
facilitation. And so I'm getting better at learning where are other people coming from. And we both need to be on this clear light trajectory to actually co-manifest something that's of this in the world.
mm. Yeah, I love that. That's incredible awareness for collaboration and co-creation to really hold things in their highest energetic integrity, and that's something I'm curious about creating, and it's something I'm curious about becoming, just such a space in business and in the culture of businesses that have huge value for our planet, is co-creations that are all held from that clear light, from that white track. And I think that is the well-being economy.
And it's fascinating, right, Lizzie? Because in a conventional economy, if we're all building a software together, we're going to say, okay, who are the best coders? Who are the best engineers and graphic designers and project managers and salespeople? And, let's get the best technically skilled people. We would also want them to have some kind of emotional intelligence or relating capacity so we can create a nice culture. And then we're going to go out and build a company together. But it's like in the well-being economy and in this, in the white track or the clear light trajectory, it's going, okay, the first thing we need is people who can relate with life from this place and who have dropped into and connected to their essence and have practiced, gone through the purification process so that there's the new way has taken over and that who they are on the other side of this process has started to reveal themselves. So now we can actually go, okay, based on how Lizzie's unfolding in her clear light trajectory, we got a pretty good sense of a trajectory that she's on, right? And here's the one that Forrest is on. And then we can see each other more clearly and see more from more angles and go, okay, now if we're building an app, who on their clear light trajectory loves coding and feels completely lit up with graphic design and sharing this particular product that we're building with the world, and like who is has it essentially coded in their DNA or in their soul's blueprint that like I'm actually a part of this, like the team that's building this project and the project itself are all co-arising together, and so are the customers and so are the partners, and like it's all one happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know from having mentored so many people over the years who are in this transition of the awakening journey but still in the consciousness that what I need to do is stack more conventional skills to be able to, like, in air quotes, succeed in life. I just want to sing the song to the world of uh, the greatest job security that you have is going all in on who you really are.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah. Oh!
oh.
Go all in on who you really are and trust that it is just going to be better than you could have fathomed. Because, well, I'll speak for myself. It has been the case for me.
Totally. And in that, I love that so much. I find the skills that you need to acquire to do that, to be who you truly are, will naturally come, or you'll naturally be so excited to sign up for that course or learn that thing, or it's just going to move through you, but it will come from within you, not from like, I think I should do this so
Right.
that I can. It'll be like, oh, I'm so excited to go learn about coding because, like, I don't know, something within me just has to go learn this. Don't even have to know why yet, but it will unfold.
Totally. And that's when learning is the most fun when we it's not saying learning isn't challenging to teach us to learn to play the piano or to play golf or to code or anything. It's not that there aren't challenges to it. And when we get in these flow states where we're just where we get the bug, right? That's something that we in the golf world, I grew up in the golf world, and that's what you would say about people. You would
Yeah.
just get the bug. It's like you just become obsessed with like, how do I hit this golf ball? Like I just want to learn, and you're out there just figuring it out. And that's the way I learn things now. It's like you just get the bug
Mhm.
uh, and become, infatuated with something like just really enlivened it. And from this place too, sometimes you can just download a whole new modality in 2 or 3 days. Like something that would have
Yes.
taken you 3 years, you just download the whole thing.
It's, in my opinion, the most effective way to learn.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
that's how most of my works even come online, is even the healing work. As much as I've traveled all over the world and have like credentials of studying with teachers, the core of it has actually come through when I'm in stillness, and just the downloads of how to do what I do have come in.
Right.
And it's like you get, when you're in that place, you get almost lifetimes of information that come through, yeah, in a few days. And then all of a sudden you're integrated in this new skill. And art was like that for me too. Channeling art. I never studied art in my life. And just the bug came, and I just couldn't stop painting for 6 months straight. And just boom, I had a whole gallery of art within a few months, and within a month people were buying it, and it was just like, okay, I didn't know I was going to do that one, but this feels right.
Yeah. And it reminds me too of when you came to the Wellbeing Economy gathering and you and I, and speaking of pricing, right? We've been talking about this pricing thing. You and I were having this conversation about you coming to the gathering, and I said, I think the tickets were 3,500 euros to come to the gathering. And then I said that to you, and I remember the tone of it felt so flat. I said, like, yeah, and the ticket's 3,500 euros. I'm just looking at you with this kind of confused look on my face. And I was like, that's not it. Like, that's not your ticket into the gathering. And then it was a couple of moments later, I think I just blurted out, like, oh, but you could come and you could make art.
Totally.
And then the life was back, the pulse was back, and we were like, yeah, 100%. And so you came to the gathering and spent 3 days, and you made 3 pieces of art in the gathering from the space that it was convened, painting dynamics and energies and uh, happenings from what was occurring in the space, and then you sold the art, and you gave half the money you made from selling the art back to back as your event ticket, whatever
Yeah.
thing. And it was
Yeah.
just like, that is a perfect example of exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's the willingness to like listen to those unconventional ways that are truly energetic resonance. And in that, I think we'll all find so many more resources available to us, and so many more like ways for things to unfold, because if it's not this finite, if it has to be this way, but we can really hear, then all of a sudden you have a program and you're inviting other people in, but those people are bringing an energetic dynamic that's somehow needed for the whole thing, but they weren't meant to come in the same way as other people were meant to come in for the value that they were bringing. And to me, things become so much more holistic when we're open.
Yeah, exactly. When we're open and when we have a mind that is like on the spectrum of adaptive to rigid, that we have a mind that can really adapt and recreate itself and completely let go of something and let something new emerge that's more resonant, like entirely let go of a concept or a map to reemerge a new one that more accurately resonates with the territory.
Yeah. Yeah. exactly. Yeah, and that was something I really appreciated about the well-being economy in that space that we entered over summer in the Netherlands is getting to collectively drop in as a group to go to that, primordial space, the well of being as we are labeling it, and to co-create from there. And to be able to bring that, something I am excited about is bringing that into any business collaboration that I do and seeing that more fully in the world. And something I've noticed even in work that I do with entrepreneurs is that's always the first step. It's never go mentally try to artifact a solution to a problem. It's like, let's drop it. Let's connect. And then we'll even be at a vibration to perceive aligned solutions.
I'm also hearing the phrase win for all and the win for all model. And I want to name that as part of the art for participation uh, that you did for the gathering, because the art that you painted, I mean, we can just look at how many wins there were all around as a way that as the way that we played.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the Wellbeing Economy conveners won, Sarah and me, because you end up giving half the money from the paintings being sold to us. The person who bought the paintings, who wasn't even at the gathering, got these paintings, right? So she now has living art in her home. It's a transmission of the ground of well-being and the emerging paradigm and vibrational tone that's just emanating into her household all day, every day, that evokes conversations. Think of all the people who come into her home and goes, "What's this?" They get to win from as a second or third degree wave, and you win because your art comes through you, and you also make money, and you get to participate in a gathering and walk out with more money than you came in with, as opposed to just paying money out of your own pocket. You actually make money. And then that's the thing that I want to sing to the high heavens, is the more than enough consciousness. Like, you actually come and make money by
Yeah.
being part of participating in an event. Like, I just want to scream at everyone that this is what we're talking about here. You can go and participate in something where you'd usually pay, and instead you earn money. Like, it's like
Yes.
because there's a generation of more value. There's just more fruition, more love, more beauty. Then there's everybody at the gathering who got to take in your art and enjoy it as it's being made. And and then I just want to zoom out to the world and look at the ripples of all of this experience. And everybody, I mean, and now everyone who's listening to this podcast, who's getting to hear about it, and who can go check out your art on your website and on your Instagram, and get connected with you if they want to commission you for some artwork, and also just take in the possibility of anyone who's listening to this can evoke this dynamic in their business dealings and in the way that they walk through the world. So it's just a win for all everywhere model, and that more than enoughness consciousness, the win for all consciousness, like, um these are the things that are so precious. They bring tears to my eyes talking about them, because they get to the core of what we're doing here with the well-being economy. This is not just a buzzword. This is an entirely different experience, uh, and it's available to all of us right now.
Yeah. Hmm. I love hearing you speak of it and feeling the dimensionality of it through your voice. The win for all as a baseline mechanism of creation. And really, how quickly our personal worlds and our entire world will, will, and is shifting from that awareness. I invite everyone listening to even just take a collective breath with us to bring that awareness forward within yourself and within everything that you're stepping into in your life, and to envision that for our planet together in this now moment of being here, tuning in. Because you're here for a reason, listening for a reason, or you wouldn't be here. And if something within you is stirring and excited, I invite anyone listening to dial up the volume a little bit on that and see what it's saying.
I'm noticing I'm getting even more emotional as you're evoking this and inviting this, Lizzie, because from a fieldwork perspective, for me, there's a few variables, two of which are how many people in the world are relating with life from this place, number one. And then number two, how potently and palpably are we doing it?
Mm,
Right? How much are we really turning up the dial and emanating this vibrational tone into the world?
mm,
And together, the more of us who drop down here and open up to and embody this vibrational tone in relationship with reality, we're creating a collective resonance field. We're creating a shared vibrational reality that will necessarily manifest a shared socially constructed reality with new institutions, new technologies, new governance structures, monies, cultures, right? A whole new way of being. And the emotion comes from me because for people who are listening, it's like you could be the person that you could be the person who tilts the tide over
mm,
right now. Like we are arguably already here from one perspective, and from another perspective, we're just one person away from from an entirely different experience on planet Earth right now. And it's like you could be the one who lets go of what isn't working for you anymore to open up and try this out. And it just makes me emotional. It's like it's here. It's so palpably here. I can taste it. I
mm.
can feel it. It's palpably alive in anybody who's listening. That I feel deeply. It's obviously just pouring through you, Lizzie. It's just emanating through you, which I'm so grateful for. And yeah, I just want to tell the people who are listening, you matter, and the way that you're showing up and relating with life matters. And this isn't just an intellectual exercise, it's a embodied invitation into applying the concepts that we're exploring here from the vibrational tone we're relating from here in your life in a way that creates a more beautiful world. So
Yeah, thank you. Mm. Thank you for sharing that, Forrest. Yeah, you do matter. Every single one of you matters so deeply, or you wouldn't even exist. And I love, Forrest, how you say it really could be one more human that completely shifts us into a whole new paradigm. Because the energetic power of an energy who's coming from their essence, from the well of being, is so vast.
Mm, mhm. I said on another podcast one time, I was like, you're teaming up with the energy that manifested the universe,
Right.
like that made planets.
Right.
We're talking about a big bang business.
The energy that just has gardens of stars. Like, come
Exactly.
on.
Exactly. It's like, is little old me gonna do it, or am I gonna team up with creation itself?
Like, it's like the humor of like one of those little like I don't know Polly Pockets trying to like push a car.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Being like, who's the biggest Polly Pocket around?
Yeah, right.
And then creation's just like,
Boop. Yeah.
well,
I feel a transition coming. I want to see, there's a couple more things I want to do. One, I want to see if there's anything else we want to share with our audience. Two, I want to make sure that you can share with people things that you have going on, your links, your offerings, how people can get engaged with you. So let's do one first. Let's see, is there anything else here to share with the audience?
what I feel in my heart strongly to share with anyone listening is so simple but so true. Just that I love you and you are loved. No matter what is occurring for you externally, no matter what kind of dynamics you currently find yourself in, there's so much love pouring into you from creation, from both, not to speak for you, Forrest, but I know it's true, so I'm going to. From both Forrest and I here, there's so much love pouring into you. Like, so much. I just want to squeeze you with hugs and have you know that and feel that within your cellular beingness.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited for what you will emerge within you from that place. So thank you for being alive and being who you are.
Mm. So I'm taking a moment to receive this. I'm inviting all of our listeners to do the same. I'm just breathing and letting in what you just shared here, Lizzie. I'm inviting all of our listeners not just to hear these words, but actually let it into your body, what Lizzie's sharing, to let the love into your body, not just hearing the words, but to feel. We feel with our bodies to feel the love. And I just want to say the same. We love you. You're so loved. You're so loved, and you are so perfect as you are. And I'm very grateful that you exist. And if you're getting really lit up and feeling really energized, or even a deep sense of peace. But if there's something happening for you that you feel curious and an impulse to lean in and engage more, I want to invite you to consider joining the Wellbeing Economy gathering this summer with Lizzie and me and Sarah and the rest of the gang coming together in Europe again. We'll have more information coming to you soon on what we're bringing together in 2025. I know you can come and hang out with me and others who are exploring this in the Our Emerging Future community. So you can go to ouremergingfuture.com and engage more deeply with this field first approach to planetary transformation. And Lizzie, I also would love for you to share how people can get more involved with you, any links you have and offerings, and specifically if people want to commission you for art, I also would really love for you to share that as
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. My website is just my name, lizzieloch.com. And I'm also on Instagram intermittently, but I'm on Instagram. And you can reach out to me to any of those places. And I do commissioned art pieces to help you anchor in whatever energy you're calling in. I've even started commissioning art for people who have crossed over or just connecting with loved ones on the other side. And for spaces, setting like feng shui and energy in spaces. And that's something I love. I'd be like so ecstatic to do that for anyone who feels called. And I'm also available. I do energy work and intuitive mentorship, and that you can reach out to me personally if you feel a resonance and we can chat. And I have an online course on opening your creativity. And those are a few ways, but if you feel a resonance, then reach out and we'll see why. We'll discover that together, perhaps.
yeah. And I want to vouch for you, Lizzie, because I've been on the receiving end of your energy work, and I experience you as tremendously gifted. I recommend you as a practitioner. I want to vouch for you to people listening, and I've seen your art. I've gotten to experience your art. I recommend you as an artist and working with you in this way. So I want to endorse you to everyone listening as someone who's been on the receiving end of your gifts and just yeah, vouch for you in the world. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that deeply. And same for you as well in the spaces you're creating and the well-being economy, especially that space of us coming together is really truly spectacular, and the emergence of souls with you and with Sarah, and who wrote Love Money Money Loves You, all of it has been such a special place to unite with us. When I found you and the universe connected us, it was like, oh, we're doing the same thing here. Heck yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
So thank you. And thank you for having me here today. And thank you for anyone who is listening, for your presence and your attention and your awareness.
We love you all. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. And thanks, Lizzie.